embracing that we are glorious works in progress, like, dumping any form of perfectionism or pressure, and just embracing that we are works in progress, that our lives, we're here to learn and grow and evolve and be open to the experience of life, with your heart that guides you. That just feels, you can't go wrong.
Yeah. That was Marieke Bosch Larose, and she is joining me for episode 32 of the Midlife Schmidlife podcast, as well as another segment of how she got started. Welcome to the Midlife Schmidlife podcast, a show that celebrates women over the age of 40 who want to live a kick-ass life. I'm your host, Liz Applegate, and I'll be bringing you inspiring conversations and practical advice with a little bit of humor and random 80s references mixed in. Join me as we redefine these middle years to start living with newfound joy and purpose while turning our maybe someday dreams into today. Hey, my Midlife Schmidlife listeners, welcome back to the podcast. Today, I am having a conversation with Marieke Bosch Larose. And please tell me I didn't mess up your name.
Nope, it's perfect.
And Marieke is a life coach. But before we get started, I would like for her to introduce herself and tell us what you do, Marieke.
Okay. Well, first of all, I'm so happy to be here. So thank you for having me.
Yes.
Yes, I'm a certified Martha Beck life coach. I'm the founder of Your Novel Life, which is my coaching practice that I founded in 2014. I'm also the creator of my Feel Guide, which is a 60-page coaching guidebook. It's beautiful for women who are really ready to see what happens to their lives when they take the time to really get to know themselves. That's kind of my thing. I'm really into authentic and intentional living, and I see myself as my mission is really to be here for myself, create my own intentionally authentic life while supporting and inspiring others to do the same. And I'm sure we're going to get into this, but I really believe that when we stop striving for perfection, and to fully embrace really that we're, just glorious works in progress, that our lives really open up to deeper fulfillment, pleasure, and purpose. And I just love helping people experience that. So yeah, I'm a first generation American. I was born to Dutch parents. I was raised in the US, but I have been in Montreal, Quebec, Canada now it'll be 18 years on July 1st. So coming up.
Wow.
Yeah. And I met my French-Canadian husband while traveling in Greece 20 years ago tomorrow. And we have two beautiful daughters and a super cute little pup. And and I love what I do, and I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah.
So thank
you. Happy to have you on the podcast. I always love having conversations with other life coaches because I just feel that, well, first of all, I'm just a big believer that everyone should at least experience life coaching at least once in their lives. But
yes.
Yeah, but
I could not agree more. Yeah,
right,
it's life-changing.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I don't know. It's like, I feel like we are eternal optimists, and we always see the best in people. We often see it before they see it themselves. And so I don't know. I just feel like, it sounds silly, but I just feel like there's just such positive energy when more than one life coach come together. And so I'm really happy to be spending my Saturday morning with you, Marieke. Yes. That's what I'm trying to say.
Thank you. Yes. Well, me too. I'm really excited to get into all this stuff and talk about, midlife and coaching and whatever else comes up.
Right.
Yeah.
So I know a little bit about your story, and I know that you actually switched careers at 40, which is 40 is the age where, even though a lot of people don't want to admit it, to me, I see that as kind of being the beginning of midlife. Now, if you would have told me at age 40 I would have said, no way am I in midlife. But I like to look at, like, if you break things up into the beginning, the middle, and the ends, there's just certain places. And to me, 40 was for me when I started having all these changes. Like it was just crazy how my life had started. All of a sudden I was questioning and things didn't feel like they fit right anymore. And so that to me is when I started to see that. So I'm wondering, what was that for you? Like, why at 40 was it something that you decided to switch careers?
Yeah. I mean, I love 40s, and especially for women. And yeah, it seems odd to call it midlife because maybe we're not, maybe we are going to live longer, but it is around that time. And I actually think like that the whole notion of like the midlife crisis or a midlife, in a way I love, I can't remember who said it, was it Brené Brown, but someone says like we awaken in midlife. Mm-hmm. And I really love that visual and that concept. And I think there's so much truth in it. And I think it actually starts in our late 30s. And for me, the whole process of like me ending up changing careers and becoming a coach started actually on my 38th birthday. And I had my second child. She was like a 1 at the time. And so I had her sort of towards my later 30s. So I still had a really young kid. But anyway, it happened for me where, I was on a massage table getting a massage. It was my birthday gift. Mm-hmm. And it was around 11 in the morning. And after my massage, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Came home and I was looking at Facebook and saw that somebody had posted, a friend of mine had posted that a friend of theirs had been a woman who had a child and who was also pregnant with her second child, had been run over by a truck in Toronto. Mm. And it just completely destroyed me, the story. And she was the same age as me. It happened on my birthday, and she had been killed at the exact same time that I'd been laying on that massage table. Mm. And it just haunted me. And I felt guilty. I felt sorrow. It just brought up all these feelings. I felt so lucky. I felt gratitude, and it was in a way really confusing, but it really just opened me up to really something bigger. It felt like a calling to something bigger, to just be awake. And for me, that feels like when the awakening started. Mm-hmm. I also had a 25-year-old cousin who was diagnosed with inflammatory breast cancer around that same time, who ended up passing away 9 months after her diagnosis. We had a couple of other family deaths. So death was like this sort of mourning and grief, and really just being brought face to face with my own mortality and life, and trying to make sense of life. What is life? And I had been in a career that I really loved. I was on maternity leave during that time. And I'd taken an extended maternity leave, actually. And when I went back to my career, I was previously an academic advisor at McGill University, and I really loved it. I loved working one-on-one with students. But when I went back, I was coming back a different person for lots of different reasons. But one was that this awakening had begun, where I started to really question, how am I spending my days? How am I spending my time? Am I using the gifts that I have to the fullest? And if not, why not? And so that's really what kicked it into high gear. And I had never even heard of life coaching, but I started kind of Googling. I have a background in philosophy. I have a master's in philosophy of education. I'd always been interested in psychology. And so I started thinking about going back to school for that. And I came across life coaching, and I was like, what is this? And as I explored what it is, I could not believe that this was an actual career. Right. And it just seems so perfect for who I am, what my gifts are. And it was just a real calling that happened, And so I started exploring that and ended up finding the Martha Beck's program. Obviously there's lots of different coaching programs. And I went with one that just felt like it was the best fit for me. And that, which I think everybody should do. And so I gave notice. I actually took a sabbatical year, and which was great. So it was unpaid, but it gave me a little bit of that flexibility to try it out, so to speak. So I finished my training and got coaching before I actually completely resigned. And that was all around 40. So there was a little bit of a process happening there.
Right.
And that's it. And then I launched Your Novel Life. Your novel meaning new and different from what's been known before. Mm-hmm. And I haven't really looked back. There have been some ups and downs, but that's really my background story to get me to where I am today. And I'll be 45 this year. So
yeah. Yeah. Oh, such a heartfelt story. So, like you and I talked before we started recording for the episode, I am including your interview in a series that I've started called How She Got Started, because I get asked that a lot. And I love the stories of learning how people got started. And there are similarities, I feel, in how we get started down, whether it's starting a new career or starting a business or making a major change. But I'm always intrigued by that. There's almost always just this moment where we think something's got to be different. Like we start questioning, like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this a lot of times? And then sometimes it is a devastating experience that really opens our eyes. And like you said, awakens, who we are.
Yeah. And I think like it's, I look back at that and I was super happy in my life. Like I really was like, because I had a couple of miscarriages between my two daughters, and finally I had my baby and like, I had decided to take the second year of mat leave, which I was able to do. And like things were moving along great. I was excited to eventually go back to this career that I love. Like I wasn't in like a difficult place in my life. I had been a little bit previous to that with the miscarriage, and there was a lot of sadness there, but I really felt like, oh, this is good. But it was, I don't know, it was just like a call to awaken on a deeper level that happened. And it took me completely by surprise. And then with the other events, of family and close family friends who passed, it was an intense time. And I've always been, which is why I ended up studying philosophy. I've always been like attracted to, life's deep existential questions. Right. So it's not that crazy that I naturally sort of go that way when faced with, with anything really.
Yeah.
But
I resemble that remark.
Yeah. I think a lot of coaches do actually. We like questions, right?
Right.
And we see the power in them. And I think that's it. Like giving yourself that permission to just sit with that question, which isn't always easy. Is like, is something missing? What am I feeling? What is this feeling telling me about my life or about what I want or don't want? Or, and that's what it's what I so much love about this, the process of coaching and allowing ourselves to be open to the awakening that wants to happen. And I think there is something that really does happen around midlife. I think we have variations of that throughout our lives, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like this time in life is a time where, before I feel like a lot of decisions are made around what we feel like we should do or, expectations of others, or we just kind of blindly are just going down this path that's laid out for us without us even realizing. And
totally.
And then we hit an age where we start kind of questioning that. It's kind of we have enough life experience under our belts. We know more who we are. There's a real beauty in all of that, and it is Brene Brown that talks about the midlife being an awakening, and I think there's part of that too that says it's when time puts her hand on your shoulders and says,
shakes her by the shoulders, right? Isn't that something like that? Yeah.
Says, it's time, and it's so true. It is so true.
It is so true. And I find it so exciting. There are certain things that shift. I don't want to say that you lose, but certain things shift, right? Like our bodies are changing, our hormone levels are changing, our breasts are sagging more, like, all this stuff.
Yeah.
But there's such a difference in how I think we want to show up in the world. And I think you're so right. Like, we've sort of followed the path that maybe we didn't question when we were younger. We sort of one foot in front of the other, and this is kind of what you're supposed to do. And then something calls us. I think actually the call is sort of thrown out there. Some people respond and some people might not. Mm-hmm. And maybe they'll do it later. Maybe some come to it sooner. Some not at all. Who knows? But for those that are willing, to do it, it really is. There's like a magic to it. And I love seeing the women around me be curious about it. And if I can help facilitate that, like that's what feels so exciting, is if I can help facilitate that and like create that environment for them to really just like get quiet. It does require a certain amount of quiet in your life to hear what it is that you really want, right?
Exactly.
And to facilitate that process for them through questions and through, creating a safe space and all of that, all the things that I know I need when I'm digging in. Right. It's such an honor. It's really such an honor. And I think more and more too, we need each other to do it. Mm-hmm. We need that like community of other women, the elders in a way, those that are a couple of steps ahead that kind of say, hey, let me help you out. This is how it was for me. And just keep that going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So tell me, when you got started, so, you've had this, you're going through this moments of like questioning who you are, what you're bringing to the world. And then, so you decide, okay, I'm going to become a life coach. What stands out to you in that time? Like, I think what I'm thinking of is, was it always that you were like super gung-ho? Yes, I know I'm on the right path. I mean, I would love to meet someone like that. I would love to that's exactly what it was like. But I'm just curious to know what that was like for you.
Okay. That's such a great question. In the beginning, I was, 100% gung-ho. I really felt like the universe was conspiring to help me all the way. Like, it was just like things just were falling into place. It felt easy in a lot of ways. I was like, wow, this is just amazing.
Right.
And it's not like I was rolling in money or anything. I was far from having replaced my salary at McGill, but clients were coming. It was happening. And I had sought out some support with a business coach, and but things were moving along. And I'm really glad you asked this question, because it's hugely important to sort of where I am now. So it's the end of 2016, and I'm at the end of so far my best year. It's been a couple of years in now, and I'm sort of doing things, quote unquote, the way I should be doing them, right? Learning about coaching as a business is a whole nother conversation, but right. I felt like I had all my things in place, and my clients, my mother had breast cancer a couple of years ago, and it turned out to be like best case scenario. Everything was fine, but her mother had also had breast cancer. Mm-hmm. And so my sister and I are considered high risk, obviously. And so I had actually found a bunch of lumps in my breast in November of 2016. And I was terrified. Mm-hmm. It turned out it was nothing. It was just a bunch of cysts. I'd never had that before, though. But as I was walking through this beautiful park here in Montreal to my mammography appointment, and I remember walking and seeing a path in front of me. I was walking, with like trees, and I remember thinking, I'm walking towards my future. No matter what, I'm walking towards my future. Mm-hmm. How are you feeling, and what do you want it to look like? And obviously, I didn't want it to include breast cancer, mm-hmm. but I had this sense that I want to have more fun, mm-hmm. and I had realized that I was, quote unquote, living my dream life, and I still wasn't having the kind of fun I wanted. Mm. And so it was another wake-up call for me, like, right. Okay, what would it take for me to have more fun? And I realized I was putting so much pressure on myself as a coach. So from that time, actually, after that appointment, I got the okay, everything was fine. I decided that I was going to actually go deeper inwards and find my bring the fun, like the fun me, because I have a
Yeah.
fun side
Yeah.
that I felt like wasn't getting expressed enough in my work. I was like, I was doing everything I was supposed to do,
Mm-hmm.
but I wasn't bringing all of me into it. And that felt, which isn't necessarily what you're not supposed to do, but it just was like a wake up call for me. And so all of last year was really spent me doing a lot more creating and a lot more work on myself, just like digging in more into myself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's how I created my field guide, this new guidebook that I have to offer. And I kind of feel like I'm relaunching Your Novel Life. It's like Your Novel Life 2.0 is sort of in the works to be launched out into the world in a bigger way coming up. So, so yeah, that was a really important moment. So it has not been all, you know, it's not been all rosy. It's been up and down. I think I went into this whole experience with some naivete as well. Like, coaching was like, yeah, sure. Coaching. Like it feels natural for me.
Mm-hmm.
Marketing, sales, website copy, like all SEO, all the other stuff around.
Stuff. Yes.
I'm still like, oh my gosh.
Right.
And so, yeah, that has been much more challenging than I originally expected.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Does that answer your question?
It does.
Yeah.
And you bring up an interesting thing too, because I know that I have fallen into this place when I was starting out. I was thinking I had to know it all before I could put myself out there, right? And I feel like that's a dangerous trap, because that there's safety in that. It's kind of like, okay, I need to know it all before I do the thing. And but really, it's like that path you are on. It's kind of like we don't know the path until we take the first step on the path.
Mm-hmm.
Once you take that first step, then the next step lights up. But I think that it can be dangerous when you're starting out, thinking that path is just going to magically appear and then you're going to know all the things.
Totally. Oh, right? Gosh, I could not agree more.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's also what has helped me so much, I think, in the way I show up as a coach, and as a human being, really. And that's one of the things that I have like sort of revamped my mission statement, is that it's so much about the progress and not the perfection. You know, like that is, and I think that's the grace in midlife that we kind of awaken to as well, is that we can give ourselves that. You know, I think there's so much pressure. I'm just done with pressure. I don't want any more pressure,
right.
You know, and so giving ourselves the permission to be, like I say, like glorious works in progress. Like what could be better than that, actually?
Mm-hmm.
And I think, yeah, even as a coach, because I think that was you named it totally. I thought I had to know everything. I thought I had to be able to, I would sort of over prepare for my client calls, because I felt like that's what I was supposed to do. I was supposed to just be super prepared. And not that I show up unprepared now, but I show up much more secure of my capabilities and just who I am. And that me showing up and knowing that I have enough knowledge and ability, just me, like take me anywhere, whether I'm sitting on my bed coaching somebody or whether I'm sitting in an office somewhere. I'm still me. I bring the same me wherever I go. And I don't know if that makes sense, but
no, it does. I was thinking it's just such a beautiful analogy for midlife too. I mean, it's like just having the comfort level of who you are, and you are prepared enough for whatever presents itself. And as you were speaking into that, I thought, wow, that's just kind of like how where we are in life right now too. And just
that's so true. Yeah. Yeah. And there's so much freedom in that, you know, like, I remember having I had this realization, and I'm not ashamed to admit it, but I'm a little shy maybe, but I'm going to say it anyway, because
Yeah.
that's another thing. I'm yeah, like not being afraid to just speak my truth.
Yes.
But I had the flash. I think I was headed to some kind of an event or something. And I sensed the physical sense of what pressure feels like in my body, right? Like sort of tightness in my chest and my gut. And I was like, what is this? What thought is driving this, as any good coach will do, right?
Right.
And I was like, oh my gosh, I have the belief that I need to impress somebody.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, wait, do I? No, I don't have to impress anybody. I just get to be myself. That's it. If they're impressed, hey, great. If they're not, that's okay too.
Right.
But being able to name that belief and realize that I was carrying that with me, that I have to impress somebody. So letting that go was like, oh, what a sense of freedom I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that is midlife. I feel like that is the expression of it. Like, that's what the awakening asks us to do in a way, is just be yourself, love yourself, accept yourself, share yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. Goodness. I got goosebumps when you were saying all of that, because it's like there is definitely a need for self-awareness around all of that. And, how many times do we just go into situations and not pay attention to where we are physically or emotionally, mentally, all of that. And it's kind of like life on autoplay, as I call it,
yes.
And it's very important to hit those pause buttons and really be aware of what's going on inside us and realize that we don't have to continue that way. Like, I think that there's a misconception that, these thoughts that I have, or these feelings that I have, or whatever it is, the situation that I'm in, that, well, that's it. That's just me. And the fact that I have a choice is so empowering.
I mean, that is probably the thing that coaching my biggest takeaway from coaching, I think when I first started learning about coaching, is that, wait, I don't have to believe everything I think.
Right.
Was like, wow. And I love helping people realize that. Like, that is just, even my kids, right? Like, you can do it with anybody.
Yes.
But helping them, like, you don't have to. And like my 7-year-old's like, yes, I do. She gets, it's this way, she's not quite there yet. I can try, but it's so empowering. It's so empowering.
Yeah, I still have my 7-year-old moments, not gonna lie. Still having where I'm like, oh my gosh, this is horrible, so.
Yes. Oh yeah, no, I slip back there too, big time. Yeah.
It's just part of being human.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you could, being now that you've been in, you had your own business, you made this shift for yourself as well, looking back, is there anything you would do differently?
That's a good question. I
think hindsight is kind of dangerous, right? Because it's like, and I don't mean this to create regrets, but it's just sort of, I'm thinking, like, if someone's listening and they're thinking, yeah, I want to, I don't know, start my own business, and what advice would you think of?
I think it would be continue to trust your vision. Like, don't let go of your vision.
Right.
And I think don't be afraid to make mistakes. I mean, it sounds a bit cliche, but it's really so true.
Yeah.
And that, I think finding a good mentor or somebody, a mentor, cheerleader, a coach, to help you with your mindset, because this is challenging work. And you can't, I tend to not like to use the words like can't and shouldn't and stuff like that, but
exactly.
I don't know if you can do this alone. Right. I don't think you can, so I think finding good people around you to support you, that's huge. And I have done that. I probably could have done it sooner than I did originally. And I think that probably would have helped.
Yeah.
And it is hard. Hindsight is challenging because in a way, I've loved the whole process. It's going slower than I expected, I would say.
Yeah.
There have been more ups and downs than I expected, especially as somebody who's had like I consider myself like a pretty, steady, happy, even keeled person. This has like brought out the woo,
Oh, doesn't it? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think having support, and actually I will add one thing that's been incredibly helpful, and I'm so grateful to have it, but I'm part of, we call ourselves MEM, which is short for Montreal Entrepreneur Moms. And it's two women, that one's an osteopath and one, she calls herself a chaos counselor. But she basically helps people like organize their homes and declutter. And, but one was picking up like a dresser that the other one was selling, that they found each other on this listserv, and we're talking, and they both realized that they worked for themselves. And anyway, they started this group, and through different people that they knew, invited other entrepreneurial moms. And we're going on 4 years now. And it started just as I started my coaching. And it's been the most incredibly supportive group, because we're all, sharing similar stories and situations and struggles. And we're all really there to support each other. And we have meetings once every Thursday, once every month on a Thursday, like the first Thursday of every month.
Right.
And we get together for, potlucks or little parties and even coffee dates. But just having that kind of support, because I have a lot of support online as well.
Right.
But having like local face-to-face, like that's been tremendously helpful.
Yes.
So I think finding a group to support would probably be my biggest like piece of advice.
Yeah, I agree. So speaking into, starting your own business, it's so invigorating, but it can be very isolating because not everybody understands that mindset, right? Not everybody is kind of understanding why you're so crazy to want to be out on your own, and just to have, and I think that speaks into just surrounding yourself with the right people, maybe having in person is difficult depending on where you live, but there are definitely opportunities more so these days online than I think people realize when you're moving into that space. And that's just,
and the online support is still really, I think, powerful.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, most definitely. And it just is, you really need people that kind of see your highest vision, and whether that's a group or a life coach or, a good friend, someone who can kind of hold you to that higher vision too. And I feel like that's just so instrumental in any type of success, whether that's starting a business or trying to lose weight or get back into shape or, anything where you're making these shifts and changes. Like you were saying, like you probably could do it on your own, but it's really difficult because there are going to be times when, that you're going to have your ups and downs. And when you're in those downs, you need someone that's going to say, hey, I believe in this for you, and just help you remember that as well.
Yeah, I love that. And what came to my mind as you were speaking was it's kind of like marriage where,
yes,
I mean, I remember, within my, I wanted to talk about my sister basically, and she went through a little bit of a tough time in her marriage, and a couple of years ago, and I feel like, at a wedding when they said like, well, sometimes you have the option for that question when you get married, but I believe my husband and I asked that at our wedding, was like, will you sort of pledge to kind of keep us accountable to our vows, will you, the audience or the community here or the friends and family. And I take that really seriously when I'm at a wedding and I'm witnessing two people, choosing to get married. Like, I feel like that's serious. And so anyway, when my sister was going through this challenging time, and they're like amazing right now. She and her husband,
Yeah.
they worked through it. But I remember that the pledge that I took at their wedding, and feeling like, I'm here to remind you of why you got married in the first place.
Right.
And I kind of feel like it reminded me of that. I don't know, that because it's such a sacred marriage, right? It's such a sacred entity, and it's not easy. It's freaking takes a lot of work. And I think it's almost like that with when you go out on your own. It's like you have this sacred desire to do something and offer something to the world in your unique way. And you can so easily go down the rabbit hole of, I suck. What the hell am I doing?
Right.
I don't know what I'm doing.
Right.
I don't deserve any of this. Like, who the hell would want to work with me?
That was me yesterday, Marieke. Come on.
Yeah. Like it's the most challenging thing I've done in my life, for sure. And for me, I'm lucky because my husband is that person that is like, babe, don't give up. Like, you got this. You got this. And so I think you're right. Like, having that person who just can see what you have to offer, remind you what you're doing, why you're doing it, to help pull you out, because we need it. Yeah. And that's where that sense of, that support and community and helping each other. And it's hugely important. More and more, I realize how important that is.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
So you mentioned how your novel life is kind of morphing into this 2.0 kind of version. I'm curious about that. I love it because I really reflect on being a very multi-passionate woman where I have a lot of interests, and in my own experience, I've had a lot of negativity in my life around that. And so whenever I'm making like a shift in my business, I really am kind of like, oh no, here I go again, making another, and so I have my business coach pointed out how to start looking at things as an evolution and not a revolution, which I love because it just really reframes it for me. So tell me about this evolution that you are in the midst
That's
of.
nice. Yeah. Well, in coaching, they say like, you have to pick your niche, like, even if it's not quote unquote the right one right away, just pick one and go for it.
Something.
And pick something. And so it's kind of a mix of different things, I think, for me, but, what all that inner work I did last year has led me to, and still even this year, and I'm still in it, but has led me to really wanting to express all of me, right? And I'm all about living authentically. And what I realized was that I wasn't expressing all of me. The fun part of me was part of it, but I wasn't allowing all the bits of me to come out and really talk about all of that. And so that's where I feel like I'm really interested in addressing like expat living and not so much coaching people on it, but letting more of me into my work, into what I write about, into what I post about. Whereas before I felt like I had to sort of just focus in on something more narrow.
Right.
Now I feel like there's to me, it feels very expansive, and it feels like I'm giving myself that permission to just be seen more, which is really scary, right? But my original tagline with your novel life was live your authentic story. And as much as I still love that, and I think we all have our own stories to tell, and stories to live, and stories to write, right, as we live them. But the vision I have now is a bit bigger. And really the new tagline is intentional living for original women. And I really want to help build a community, a safe, sacred, beautiful community for women that want to be able to express their uniqueness and their originality, and in whatever big or small way they do, Because my belief is, and I'm sure you agree, and if you don't, you tell me, but that we are all unique, right?
Yes,
Like,
we are.
yeah, we have similar desires and needs in life, but we're all so unique, and we all have our own way of doing things and saying things and seeing things and
Right.
expressing. And when we bring a sense of intention to that and live in an intentional way in how we express that, that to me is kind of what we're all here for. And so more and more, I want to be able to bring my own, intention and authentic living out and create a community for people to feel seen and heard and be seen and heard and express their own originality, I suppose. And so I feel like where I'm headed with Your Novel Life is it feels bigger and broader and more expansive to me in terms of the container that I'm creating, so to speak, of what is going to be shared. I love like eating really healthy. So there's, like natural living, and health component, expat living, travel, relationship stuff.
Right.
Just all these elements that really make up me, because as you, like, I'm multi-passionate, and that's what I realized was I'm not expressing all of me in my work.
Right.
And why not? And maybe I can. And so that's sort of how it came about, was that just felt so much more aligned within my own authenticity to let all of it out for myself. So that's kind of my big work this summer, is to really express and get this out into the world. Does that make sense?
It does. It does.
Yeah.
And what I love, so what was the original tagline?
Live your authentic story.
Right. And so I feel like this is you living your authentic story.
Yes.
Right. Like I feel like this is you really just making that choice and saying, hey, this is all of me, and not just this little coaching section, not just me, the coach, but me, the woman.
The woman. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's, that sense of connection, collaboration, community, all of that just feels right. It just feels like that's where I want to head. And coaching is within that, obviously. But it's allowing me to explore more of myself and give people permission to do the same, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, we do seem to need permission to to embrace all of who we are and all these just how we show up and our gifts, and that's interesting. Like I feel like that could be a whole conversation about the need for permission.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and the way that we can, like, stop ourselves just by certain limiting beliefs, by cultural, pressure, familial pressure. And that's why I think that something in midlife, anyone listening who perhaps has those feelings of something feels off, I want more, but not being able to identify what that more is.
Right.
That just, you feel it. You feel that something needs to be examined, looked at, changed, addressed. And that's where it's like, instead of being afraid of it, knowing that the answer you seek is letting yourself go in there and explore what that means. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because it can be scary. I mean, for me, it was almost, I felt like I woke up one day and like nothing fit anymore. like I was really looking at my career. I was looking at friendships I had. I was looking at, even, it sounds silly, but even the way I had been decorating my home, it's just like all of a sudden things just didn't fit. It didn't seem to be an expression of who I was. And and that was scary, because it was like, oh wait, these are the familiar places. And who am I going to be when I start really asking these hard questions?
Yeah. Yeah, it's true, because a lot of people are much more comfortable. Well, most of us in the beginning, I think, are much more comfortable with, what's that expression, with staying with the familiar instead of going something. I mean,
like the devil
I'm not saying it right, but
the devil
yes,
you know is better than the devil you don't.
You don't. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And, yeah, and that's why sometimes getting help to help you face the devil you don't know.
Right.
Right. With like a coach or a friend or somebody that's there to just be like, you know what, let's just take a peek and see what might be there.
Yeah.
And then you take a longer peek, and then you kind of open the shade, and then
Right.
But in my experience, well, for myself, but certainly for other people, clients and friends and family, and the truth, right? Like with a capital T, truth that wants to be known is always more peaceful.
Yes.
Than the not knowing. Then it's the not knowing that starts to eat away at you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of like, it's like once you make a decision, it's like that moment, it's like before making a big decision, or just, it's like that limbo stage. But once you make that decision, it's very similar to where it's kind of like, why didn't I do this sooner?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So Marieke, my final question for you is, what does it mean to you to live a kick-ass midlife?
A kick-ass midlife, well, definitely it would be embracing that we are glorious works in progress, like, dumping any form of perfectionism or pressure, and just embracing that we are works in progress, that our lives, we're here to learn and grow and evolve and be open to the experience of life, with your heart that guides you. That just feels, you can't go wrong.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
So where can our listeners find you online?
You can find me at yournovellife.com. And I'm also on Instagram under the same, what do we say, handle? Is that what we say?
Yeah.
Your Novel Life. You can find me on Facebook as well. I'm less on Facebook these days. Instagram, I'm having a lot of fun on Instagram. Speaking of bringing more fun, I'm so glad Instagram is there, because I do find it just really fun. But yeah, and I have a blog. I do some occasional videos on Facebook, and I'm launching out my field guide. My 60-page guidebook is it's been a bit limited in how you can access it. I'm actually launching it. It's going to be for sale as an online PDF and also as a hard copy. And I'm going to be coming out with that information this summer. In the next couple of weeks. So
that's exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll have all the links in the show notes for this episode. Okay. And so
wonderful.
Everyone can head over there and find you online. And Marieke, it's just been wonderful having this conversation with you. And thank you for sharing how you got started and everything that went into that.
Thank you. I mean, I feel like we could just spend the whole day talking.
I know.
So nice.
Yeah. I looked at the time. I went, oh, wow.
Yeah. It's flown by. Thank you so much. It's really been a real pleasure to hang with you and chat. And I appreciate it. Yeah.
Awesome. Hey, Schmidlifers. Thank you for joining me today in the conversation with Marieke. I really hope that her sharing how she got started is inspiring you to think about how you can get started as well.